Coaches, good morning. This is Coach Gibbs in the defensive lab. I'm pleased to be joined by Dr. Andrew Ramjit, who's the director of the Pay Florida Coaches Coalition. Coach, good morning. How you doing?
Hey, good morning, Coach. Pleasure to be on with you today.
Awesome, man. Obviously, we wanted to get this thing done. We got a big week coming up here in Florida. So, Coach, before we get into the meat and potatoes of these things, just give everybody that may not know who you are or may have heard of you, just kind of give them a background on yourself, educationally, football, anything you want to talk about.
Yeah, man. So raised out in Broward County, Florida. Played a little ball, but to be honest with you, I wasn't that athletic, right? But went to college, did the college thing when I graduated college, wanted to get an education, help some kids. And my very first job was at Parkway Academy out in Miramar, Florida. Coach Anthony Harris. They were restarting the program. They needed some coaches out there. Coach Harris knew I had a little bit of a background in football, so invited me to join the staff, and that was the beginning of the journey for me here. Throughout the years, worked at a few places down there, but pay wasn't adding up, man. My wife does not know much about football or what goes into it. What she looks at is the paycheck. Like, hey, man, bills are not getting paid on time. Money's drying up. You're gone an extra 60 hours a week. What's going on? So I had to step away, got into the school admin thing, from the school admin thing, moved up to Central Florida, got my hands back into football, coached another 3 years out here. And then during COVID, a county AD job opened up in Brevard County. So Brevard County, for those of you not in Florida, it's east of Orlando. We're talking maybe 35 to 45 minutes east of Orlando. So took that job, and the big thing that I was trying to push out there was an increase in coaches' compensation. But what I quickly realized, and I hate to say it this way, but those administrators out there did not really care about coaches, right? The unions did not care about coaches. They cared about the teachers, what the teachers were going through. But in my eyes, I was like, hey, man, I'm a coach. I never forgot what it was like painting a field by hand on a Wednesday night. This is pre-turf tank, Coach. I never forgot that. So it really bugged me. So December of 21 launched the Florida Coaches Coalition here, and slow start for us. But now, a little more than 4 years later, we're up to 16,000 members in the state. We're getting legislation moved, and we're running Coach of the Year next year, which is going to be massive.
That's great. Yeah. So, I mean, like I said before, I met Dr. A couple years ago, and, obviously being down in Southwest Florida, similar thing he was talking about in Brevard County. So we really appreciate all the work that you guys are doing. So now we got a big week coming up, Coach. I'm excited to get up to Orlando. Talk to everybody, because this is going to come out tomorrow. I'm going to put this out tomorrow night. So everybody has kind of an idea. So talk to everybody about the Nike Coach of the Year, and just go through everything, the speakers, the events, everything from the flag. I was looking at the website last night, flag football, AD stuff. I mean, not just regular high school football. There's a ton of stuff that you guys are putting on. So let everybody know what's going on up in Orlando starting Thursday.
Yeah, man, it's going to be massive this week. So post-COVID, and I'm sure, most of the guys watching this know, clinics the attendance has slowly started to dwindle in certain places. Florida used to be just Orlando in general for the Coach of the Year clinic. That was the mecca, right? Coaches would fly in from all over the country. One year, I believe it was 2012 or 13, there was 1,500 coaches at this clinic, right? And you go, and over the last few years, it's a few hundred. So Coach of the Year, they were looking for someone new to run the clinic. And, we got connected. And, I mean, what we're bringing to this clinic this year, it's awesome. Like Coach Gibbs said, we have a room for flag. We have a room for ADs. But what we're doing football-wise is massive. We have Mario Cristobal and staff, Miami, John Summerall and staff, UF, Mike Norvell and staff, FSU, Scott Frost and staff, UCF, Brian Hartline and staff, USF. That's 5. I'm trying to name everyone else. Zach Kitley and staff, FAU, Willie Simmons and staff, FIU, Quinn Gray and staff, FAMU, and Dabo Sweeney. And just added yesterday, we haven't put it out yet, but I'm sure the graphic will be out by the time this comes out. Chris Carter, NFL Hall of Famer, he's going to be out there talking wide receiver play. Who would not want to learn wide receiver play from one of the best to ever do it? I mean, the clinic that we have is stacked from top to bottom, And outside of your college coaches, we have some of the best high school coaches in Florida that are going to be out there. Championship level coaches. We got Coach Gibbs speaking out there. And we have socials, paid socials for the coaches. Coaches do not have to pay an extra penny. Top Golf on Thursday night. Duffy's, which is a sports bar out here, on Friday night. All covered in the cost of admission. I mean, it's stacked, Coach, and it's going to be a great time for everyone that comes out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just amazed at how you guys, and I know, Jeff does a great job organizing everything, and I know he works his butt off putting the schedule together. But it's just, amazing about the resources that are available to us in Florida. And that's like one of the things when I moved from New Jersey, we had if we wanted to go to spring football, we would go to Rutgers, maybe go to Penn State, maybe go to, Maryland or Delaware, maybe Army if we wanted to drive, but and that's one of the things that I tell my coaching colleagues, that are still back in the Northeast. Well, now they're getting ready to shovel a whole bunch of snow. It's one of the things I say. I'm like, we have probably, Florida and Texas are probably the two best states when it comes to the high school football coaches and their access to, the college coaches in the state. Like I'm living in Naples. I'm 90 minutes from Miami. I'm 2 hours from USF. I'm 3 hours from, Central Florida, 4 hours from Gainesville. If I want to get up early and head to go see the Seminoles, I can bust up to Tallahassee and FAMU, it's just, the resources that we have here and what you guys have done to put this together is just unreal. And that's a credit to you and Jeff and the rest of the committee for putting that together. So, Coach, you mentioned at the end of kind of your introduction about, legislation and, the coaching salaries and the mission of the coalition. So why don't you take us through like the infancy of the coalition and kind of walk us through the process of that legislation. And then we'll get into the next steps once you finish up.
No, 100%, Coach. And, most people know the compensation that our coaches get out here in Florida is abysmal. It's the laughing stock of the nation. When you think about how many Division 1, 2, 3 NAIA athletes come out of Florida, more than any other state in the country, including California and Texas. But our coaches were paid 50 of 50. They were dead last, which is a joke. And I think it was a reflection of the education system here in Florida as a whole. But when it came to compensation, and pushing compensation legislation, that was the main goal of what we did with the coalition, right? That's what we wanted to achieve, is to get something to the finish line here. So more than anything else, right? I'm a big data guy, so it's really just understanding the data. We have 67 counties here in Florida, so it's 67 different problems. It's understanding each of those 67 different problems, because legislation, when it's enacted, it affects everyone, but you have to understand how it would affect certain regions of the state. So started understanding more and more, and then January of 24, it was our first big meeting we were having with legislators in Tallahassee and Coach John Peacock over there at Venice. I said, Coach, I need someone to really help get some legislators in the room, because at the time, legislators didn't want to really hear what, they just thought it was going to be a bitching session with coaches, right? So I called John up and I said, John, I need some help here, brother. Like, can you get me someone in there? And he came through. Mike Norvell pulled up. So as soon as we could put Mike Norvell out there, the flyers for the legislators, the room filled up. And Coach Norvell was very eloquent, talked about the issues that high school coaches were facing, the massive turnover of coaches in Florida because of the low pay. And I was able to present data. Two of the guys in the room, Corey Simon, you guys probably know Corey. All-American over at Florida State, went into the NFL, played for the Colts, won a Super Bowl. And then we had a young legislator by the name of Adam Anderson. He played high school ball out in Tampa. And he approached me after the clinic. He's like, hey, man, I had no idea that coaches got paid so low, because whenever we met with teacher unions never talked about coaches. They were talking about teachers. Like, I just thought coaches were getting paid because you see all these things about these college coaches making millions. And I was like, no, man, it's night and day. High school is. So he's like, listen, I need to verify these numbers you gave me, but we'll be in touch. There were no promises, no guarantees. He went on his end, had his staff research the numbers, and he actually found out for some of those counties is actually lower, right? So we got back together, and he basically was getting our input. What is it that's needed? Like, what's the urgency? Like, what are the urgent issues here? Because he was upfront. This is going to take time to pass. You look at Florida doing certain things for over 50 years. You can't change it all overnight. So you know what? We have to take this in steps. So what we wanted initially was minimum wage for all coaches for all hours worked. What we came to find out is coaching isn't even classified as a job category here in Florida. Teaching is, but coaching is a supplement that's added on, right? A stipend. So the legislation that's moving forward right now in the Florida House and Senate, it passed the Senate last week. So we have one vote left in the House. But the way it reads is coaches, if their districts approve it, will be allowed to be paid by booster clubs. And we have some very robust booster clubs, some areas of the state. Coaches, if they want to be classified as administrators, they can approach the superintendent who would make that decision. Same for athletic directors. And third, there's no cap on the amount that you can be paid by a booster club, which is massive. So now, they release these graphics every year of the top 100 paid coaches in Georgia, top 100 in Texas. Give it a few years and see what the top 100 paid coaches in Florida are going to look like, because I know Texas is tax-free, but Georgia isn't. But Florida, with the resources and the money that's pumping in some of these communities, our guys are going to be up there on that list.
I mean, again, I'm all for it. I think you make a great point about the unions. We always said, like, we spend more time with the kids than they're at home with their parents.
100%.
Right. So, so how is somebody that's, going to be working from 7 to 2 where we're working from 6 to whenever, taking time away from our family? How are you going to tell us or dictate to us, what we should be paid for that kind of time? And like I said, you guys have done, just put your head down and have done great work getting to Tallahassee, getting the representation that you've had over the last, year and a half, 2 years. I guess my question would be, the second point that you made, because everything else to me is pretty like clear cut and dry with the booster club. What would be the compensation for a coach if they were classified as admin if the superintendent improves it?
Yeah, it's based on the district scale. So every district is a little different. But you know what? They do it out in Bay, Walton, Okaloosa County right now. Their football coaches are also classified as administrators, and they're not teaching classes, but they're given some duties around the school, whether that's, being in the cafeteria while the kids are in lunch, whether it's running your internal suspension, whatever it is, every county is able to make their own scale, and they're able to make their own job responsibilities, right? Which is kind of cool, because one thing, what applies in the northwest corner of the state in Pensacola may not work in the southeast in Miami, right? So Florida is a massive state, and there's just so many different counties, right? Northwest Florida, you might as well call that East Alabama, right? Because It's so much different than what's going on in the southwest out there in Naples, or even in the southeast in Miami. But it's going to be based on what the districts want, and more so than anything else, I think year one, we're going to see, we already have 10 of our 67 school districts that have come out and said, yes, we're going to be moving forward with booster club pay. Will every single one of them agree to it right away? No, obviously not, because they're running so behind the 8 ball here. But what we're going to do as a coalition is the same way we were able to get this legislation through when nobody thought it was possible. We're going to get in their faces, and we're going to let them know this needs to be done. Because you do not want to be known as the county that's not paying their coaches when the other ones are. Because guess what? It's coming from boosters. It's not coming from a county or district budget. So,
right. And I guess so. Then, like, to that point, like you're saying that if the superintendent of a county were to approve a coach now to be an assistant athletic director and be compensated for X amount of duties, during the day. That could be something. Now, and this is for all schools in the counties, public and private.
It's for public schools. So private schools right now already have their own scale. So would just be for public schools, which are also charter schools as well.
Okay.
Because they're publicly funded. They would have that ability if the school district agrees to it. So it's very exciting, and what's great too is it's not all, football, it's all sports. And one thing that was actually massive that came out of this was it's actually going to be extended out to all extracurricular activities, right? They didn't want to leave out your class sponsors, your band directors, all the performing arts. So if they have booster clubs or support organizations, guess what? They can get compensated as well. And I've heard from more band directors over the last week than I probably have over the last 4 years, because they're ecstatic. Because band boosters, they're rolling in dough all across the state, right? So these band directors are excited now. I think you might run into the issue in some areas in the state. The band director is going to go to the football coach and be like, hey, man, it's marching band practice. Get off of my field, right?
Yeah.
It might actually turn into that, but it's just exciting all around, man. That if you're putting in extra time, it only makes sense that you're getting paid what you deserve. It's just a travesty that no one ever brought this forward to the legislators before here in Florida. And I'm glad that we were able to do that at the coalition, and I'm glad that we're finally one vote away now from getting this change enacted. And by the way, there's another question we always get asked. When's this going to be enacted? Okay, they're going to vote on it this week. When does it go into effect? July 1st of this year.
Okay. So then, and I thought you made a good point too. Like, you don't want to be the county next to like a rival county that's not doing this, because that could mean that you're a coordinator or somebody, or could go to that other county, especially if they're looking for, adequate compensation. So I think that's a good point, and a good point too, Coach, about how this involves all sports, throughout the state of Florida. So let's do a bit of forecasting, right? Let's say, okay, now it's February of 26. If you could look into a crystal ball, where would you see this plan, let's give you February of 2029, let's say 3 years from now.
Yeah. So what I think is by February of 2029, I see an overwhelming majority of the districts in this state adapting. I would think by that point, all 67 would be adapted, because just like you said, you don't want to be known as that county, because guess what? Your coaches are going to leave, because no one wants to work for that superintendent or that school board that does not respect them, does not compensate them, and just allows for other surrounding counties to pay their coaches, but they just don't care. School districts can no longer say, well, we don't have the money for it. It's not coming out of their budget. It's coming from booster clubs and private support organizations, right? So where's the issue? And great thing as well, Coach, that's in the bill, money never gets exchanged from the booster club to the school district. Booster clubs are separate entities, right? They got their own EIN numbers. They have to do their own taxes. They're separate from the school district, right? So the school district, there's some school districts out here, they do some funky things with money. We don't want school districts touching that money. We want the booster clubs to compensate the coaches directly, right? And that's the way it's written in the bill. But February of 29, I see this in all 67 counties. I see coaching finally being classified in its own job category. And once it's classified in its own job category, that minimum wage, that's already in there. So in 3 years, 2029, I see coaches getting the booster pay, getting paid minimum wage per hour, and finally being recognized as the professionals that they are. Coaching is a profession, and you know this, Coach. It's a profession, and Florida needs to start looking at the coaching profession as a profession, not a supplement, not a stipend, a profession. And that's where we're going to be taking this next.
I think that's, yeah. I mean, it's something that you guys have from Jump Street have talked about us as professionals and, being treated as such. And like I said, I can't say enough positive things about what you guys have done and everything, taking time away from your families to go to the Capitol to present. I mean, it's been great. And the great thing is too, the governor's all about it. That's a phenomenal thing that you have Governor DeSantis behind you, for this. So
And it's crazy, Coach, because you know what? He's in his last year here, and I just really wish, I could only imagine if there was another organization here in the state that actually tried pursuing this from the time he started. He's a baseball guy, right? He played D1 baseball over at Yale, and I just don't see why no one approached him about this before. But you know what? Better late than never, and I'm glad that we were able to really just he came out and made a statement multiple times. Our coaches need to be paid more in Florida. He tweeted about it last week, and that blew up everywhere, right?
Yep.
And I'm just glad that we were able to get that to him.
Absolutely. And I think the last one of the last points you were making about the booster club not having to give any money to the school, I think that's phenomenal, because the booster club can say, hey, this is allocated for the coaches in this sport. Then all of a sudden something's bought that's not supposed to be bought, and those guys don't get the money. So
let me tell you something, Coach, right? I told you I'm a Broward County guy. Yeah. Broward County, they're involved in a massive scandal right now because they had a 0.5-cent sales surtax that was approved by residents. Money that was allocated to go towards teacher bonuses. Do you know where that went, Coach? To district administrators as bonuses. Some of these district administrators making upwards of $10,000, $15,000 while teachers got nothing. There is no way that any of this booster money can touch these districts, because these districts are corrupt. And I hate to say it because I know we have to work with them, but the proof's in the pudding, man. When you see things like that, millions of dollars allocated, supposedly supposed to go into the pockets of these teachers, and it goes to the highest paid employees in the district, your county administrators, it's a joke. So I can understand why coaches do not have trust in their school districts when you keep seeing these issues pop up and pop up. So I'm glad that it's written there in the law that districts are not touching this money. It's coming directly from the boosters to the coaches in their pockets.
Coach, this is great stuff. So before I let you go, why don't you just give the info for this week? Dates, location, anything else you want to talk about? Probably going to be one. I've just finished my 25th year of coaching. Other than the AFCA, this is probably going to be the best clinic that I've ever attended. So go ahead and let the coaches know where they can. And I'll put the link to sign up, guys, in the summary on the YouTube page.
No, I appreciate it, Coach, and thank you for allowing me to jump on this platform and share my story, talk about the coalition, talk about the clinic. February 26th to the 28th. Weston Lake Mary. We already have 650 coaches signed up. We're expecting about 750. Like Coach said, this is going to be the biggest clinic, biggest event for coaches this year outside of the AFCA. We would love to see everyone out there. Jump on the Coach of the Year website. It's coyfootballclinics.com. Click on Orlando. Go ahead and register. The schedule's up live, and all the information you need is going to be out there. So coaches, if you're not registered, I hope to see you out there. Coaches, if you are already registered, get ready to have a good time this week.
All right, Coach. Listen, I appreciate you taking time on a Sunday. I wanted to get this out, for the beginning of the week. So thank you so much. And guys, if you can, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I'll put the information for the clinic in the summary. You guys have a good day.